Welcome to the Peaks Central Asian Film Festival podcast, a companion to the annual celebration of cinema from Afghanistan, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan, Western China, Western Mongolia, Central and Eastern Russia, Eastern Iran, and Northern Pakistan, or from filmmakers whose country of origin is one of these countries, including members of the diaspora. This podcast continues the conversation sparked by the festival through interviews with filmmakers, features on standout submissions and winners, and deep dives with fans and scholars of Central Asian film. Join us as we explore the region's diverse narratives and connect with the people shaping its cinematic future.
Hello, cinema fans out there, and welcome to the Peaks Central Asian Film Festival podcast. My name is Tay, and I'll be here today in place of our usual host, Tim, for episode 3 of this adventure into Central Asian film. I am so happy to be joined today by the director of Peaks Central Asian Film Festival, Sofia Habib, and administrator and programmer of Peaks, Kosar Dakhilalian. Welcome back to both of you. Thanks for joining me today.
Thanks, Tay. It's nice to be back. So
it's a really exciting time. We're coming off the heels of the second annual Peaks Film Festival that was just held 5 days ago in Toronto at Soulpepper Theatre, and Tim and I were lucky enough to both attend. It was a really wonderful night from our experience, but you guys were kind of on the ground floor. You guys were part of the setup, the organization, the assembly of this beautiful night. So how was it for you guys? How have you guys been post-festival? Is there a bit of like a coming down after the exciting night?
That's kind of a big question. Yeah, I guess I feel, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I threw like 5 at you there.
I feel a sense of relief. I think everything went as smoothly as possible, and it was a great turnout. And any reservations or fears or concerns I had going into it were all kind of resolved, and everything went great. So I feel a huge sense of relief and accomplishment.
Yeah, I think the event was a great gathering of beautiful people, and we were lucky to be able to host that and to have Soulpepper's support in that night. And you guys showed up from Niagara. It was awesome.
I honestly didn't get a greater sense of where people came from, but I got the sense that there was like people who kind of came from at least all around the GTA to be there that night, which was really nice to kind of hear. I didn't engage with as many people post screenings as much as I would have liked, but there seemed to be such a diverse group of people there. There's a lot of people there too. It was really nice to see like a really engaged crowd for these films. And so what was it, 8 films shown that night?
7.
7 films. So 7 films. I have so many takeaways from like the films themselves. We're not going to really dive too deep into that today. We're going to kind of just break down what happened during the night and just our greater takeaways from the evening, I think. So I think where I would like to start with that is just let's start with vibes, because as like broad of a word that is, as broad of a word as that is, I think when I walked into the space, there was like a transformative experience, as I think you get with certain spectatorial events. I kind of like, my guard was dropped. I was maybe like a little nervous about feeling a little out of place. And right away, all that kind of just went away. And it was very comfortable. It was very accepting space. And I just felt that there was such a vulnerability in the air to kind of like take in these stories. Did you guys kind of have a sense of that, or was that maybe a carryover from the year before that I didn't attend for?
No, I think I kind of agree with you, Tay. I mean, even though I did the same thing a year ago, I also felt a feeling of uneasiness or just like an awkwardness. And then once people really started to gather and the crowd kind of grew and people were talking amongst each other and having snacks and popcorn, I think it there was an ease that sort of overcame both me and you and everyone.
Yeah. It was also a very warm environment for me. Well, I was a little bit familiar with the space and some of the people who came, but I really appreciated that Sofia prepared some food and some warm drinks for people to have together, and I think one of the things that really was helpful for me initially was the amount of support that we had. Sofia and I, and Rhoda was also helping out, which was great. And some people knew about Peaks from last year who came and said hi and they introduced themselves. And I got to interact with them because I was at the door, and it was so lovely.
That was really nice, actually, catching some of those interactions. Just I overheard some people say they were there last year, and then I also heard just you engaging with some people at the door there, and that seemed like so fruitful, so like inviting and wonderful. And it really, I kind of had this thought before even attending that this is just like a rare opportunity for people to like kind of have these conversations, and it really proved to be that people were so eager to share personal anecdotes or even just engage in discussion about what they just saw, because I feel like this is such a rare opportunity, and that was really nice to see. I think for like my objective takeaways from the night too, I thought I'd never been to Soulpepper Theatre. What a beautiful venue. Very modern and huge space for us to work within, and there's good drinks available. Sofia, you had that amazing green tea, which just hit perfectly for me that night. I needed that warm tea, and popcorn. It was fantastic. So really good job carrying out the night. I think you both deserve a lot of credit for just how smoothly the night ran too, because it just ran like so seamlessly. It was very nice.
Thank you. Yeah, I think that's because of just I guess all the work and preparation we did going into it, but also the assistance from Soulpepper. Their staff is so incredible, and yeah, like you said, it's a wonderful space. That sort of lobby cafe area is like open all day, and it's a very
Yeah.
warm and inviting space. And I know they work very hard to make that space inviting. So I'm sure they'd be happy to hear that.
Yeah, and just before we get into like more about the night itself, you guys were both part of the selection process of these films. So I did want to briefly ask, like, first of all, how many films were in the selection process, and what were like maybe some of like the bigger reasons why you picked these 7 films?
There were around 400, just over 400
Wow.
submissions this year. And we had a lot more submissions last year, but I think it was because we had a shorter submission window this year. We didn't have as many, but that doesn't mean that the quality wasn't good, or we still had so many films to choose from. And I think the selection that we chose I think it's for a number, there are a number of things that I consider when making the selection, and it's having a variety of countries or regions that the films are from. That's very crucial. It's nice to have many different languages and regions represented, and also different genres. So we had an animated film, we had a
Yes, yes.
documentary film, the first film, Hamid's Portrait, and then a number of fiction stories. And then the last one is also fiction, but very different from the others in that it's a very contemporary story, deals with AI, which is a very contemporary but worldwide issue. So, yeah, a lot of different components or thoughts, I think, going into the programming.
It was my first time adjudicating for Peaks, so I don't know about the procedure last year, but what I found helpful for me was to go back and review the mission of Peaks a couple of times throughout the process. And one of the things that Peaks is trying to do, as Sofia has designed and framed it, is to portray the stories, to showcase the stories from Central Asia that sort of doesn't necessarily align with the way media in the West shows that area of the world. And yeah, and I think there were a lot of great films that we decided to not include because of the mission of the festival that I kept going back to. I think, yeah.
So that is really interesting, and that makes this quite a unique type of festival and screening experience, because you guys are programming with an intention rather than, from my understanding, like not necessarily even evaluating on like best film like in terms of its quality, but in terms of maybe its ability to have a message here in this venue. That's really interesting. Am I phrasing that about right? Like, I don't want to misquote you guys.
Yeah, I think that sounds right. We want to sort of display a wide variety of, like, let's say, like religions and languages uh, and perspectives on those things as well, and not necessarily perpetuate the like Western idea of what life is like in the West, what if it's war or thing like violence and things like that, because those regions are so much more than that. While those things can exist, um, and it's shown, I think, in subtle and also obvious ways, but it's not the focus to capitalize on people's um, on like sadness and grief and trauma and war and things like that.
Yeah, I think there's a really easy route that it could take to being like a festival about all movies being about those themes, about like the struggle from this area of the world. And I think that that would, if anything, just kind of almost partially validate Western media's depiction of that area. So I really think that what you guys are doing in terms of diversifying the types of films and the types of like the different types of microcosms we get to see from Central Asia, that really helps show the variety of messaging and the variety of like people and how everyone has their own story to tell. It's something that cinema can do so beautifully, and I love getting to see it in this context. As I've alluded to on the other two podcasts, it's a tough region of the world to find cinema from, so it's really enlightening to see such a variety that you guys chose. And that does actually open up my bigger question about the types of movies you guys chose, because and maybe you've already almost answered this question, but it's very well rounded in the sense that there were both genre movies and there was culturally centered movies. So there was movies that I could tell were like about being in that culture, and then there was movies where it was like, this is a culture showing what they can do with a genre under the formula of a genre. And I've always found both to be almost equally informative when I'm watching something from a different international cinema. From anywhere in the world, if you can see a genre film, it shows almost the interpretation of an American genre in some ways, because genre is very American. Mm-hmm. And also you can see these culturally rich stories, which basically show you parts of the world and people that you might not experience in your day-to-day life. So there's both. I see such rewarding facets to both. And you guys really programmed this to kind of cover all of that. So was that kind of part of the initiative as well?
I think yes. I think it's important to have a mix of stories, like ones that are rooted in culture and ones that embrace culture. A film like Double Eyelids, where both Kazakh and the Chinese language are spoken, and there we get to see what contemporary life is like there versus a movie like Bella at Dusk, which there's no dialogue at all. There's just a radio playing in the background, so there's no language. Really, it could be a film from anywhere. I think it's important to show films in all of those contexts.
We didn't have any discussion about it, but I think we were unintentionally curating it as a way that would um, reflect all of that. And I think in the variety of forms and the variety of storytellings that we've chosen, I think it naturally just happened. Um, and
So unintentionally
yeah,
great programming. I get it.
I think it was in my mind to consider those things, and I'm sure that Sofia was also thinking about it constantly as we were watching the films. Um, But yeah, that's a good question. I think it's also a good question to carry forward.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm very curious to talk to some of the filmmakers we're hoping to have on this podcast about that exact idea as well. Like I said, I come from a background of watching a lot of international cinema from around the world, and I've always found that incredibly interesting, either way that filmmakers take that messaging. So it was really nice to see that once again at your film festival. And that actually does lead, because you brought up the film Double Eyelids, and we had two incredible guests as part of the panel following the screenings. Sophia, you did a wonderful job moderating. I have my own questions about that experience in itself, but we had two amazing panelists, Galdana Salimjan and Asal Akhmatova. Both brought forward tremendous insights that I never would have heard like otherwise, I don't think, without this open discussion. So that was really great. Asal actually had one of her film was the closer of the festival this year. And Goldana, it was a wonderful scholar to hear from who's local from Toronto. So I thought that was really great to have both those voices in the room as well. What was that like for you, Sophia, for moderating? I don't know if you have much experience doing that, but you did a really good job kind of like keeping them both like on the right questions and keeping the discussion very interesting.
Thank you. Yeah, well, I learned from you, I guess you could say that.
That
Um,
is far too kind.
in the moment, I want to say I like blacked out and I just wasn't
Yeah.
like almost wasn't there at all. But in hindsight, I was thinking about how when one of the guests would answer, I could kind of summarize it at the end or put it into context with what Peaks is doing or with some of the films that we saw and speak to the audience and engage the audience more in the Q&A. And yeah, I think I killed it. Yeah, I did.
You did.
Yeah, and I think our goal is to have at least Asel on the podcast at some point, and hopefully Galdana will join us at some point down the road as well. Kosar, did you have any major takeaways from the discussion or the panel in general?
Yeah, it was a really beautiful panel, and um, they both Goldana and Asal, they were very generous and very humble in the way they invited us to this knowledge that they carry, and it really helped me. The discussions that happened in the event, it really helped me uh, learn more about the context in which Double Eyelids was filmed, and the culture and the politics around that, which it can seem like a story or a film about someone trying to conform or trying to fit in to beauty standards, but there is so much more to it. And yeah, I think this was an interesting takeaway for me.
I am hoping to dive into the film itself, like Double Eyelids, at some point on this podcast. But I just want to say, like, my biggest takeaway from that film, not like I guess outside of maybe culture, the culture clashing that happens between the Kazakh and the Chinese in the film, or like the Chinese and Kazakh cultures in the film. I thought that was like, first of all, I hadn't really no context for that, so that was really eye opening. But then, as we've discussed on some of the other episodes of this podcast, the landscape in that film was just stunning, and cinematography to depict that landscape was particularly stunning. Just how bright they were able to film that one and show like how gorgeous the sunlit green mountains are there. Oh, it's just stunning. So I had so many thoughts while watching that movie, and it was really nice to hear, because I didn't actually know that Goldana was going to be breaking down that movie more. So that was actually really, really nice to kind of catch up with that. Did you guys have any other big takeaways from the night? Any other people that you met that were super interesting that you want to bring up on the podcast here?
I think one takeaway I had from the night was that people were really engaged and responsive to the panel and the conversation that happened afterwards. And I'm sure you both spoke to people as I did, and people had really positive things to say about it. Tay, you had really positive things to say about it as an audience member, and um, I think it just goes to show the need and the crave for conversations involving Central Asia and the region, and those conversations have to involve people from those regions, and that's why we had those guests. So it was really valuable and informative, and um, I think going like for the future of Peaks, I would like to continue doing that and more of that. This was our first time doing it, so I'm happy it was a good response, and yeah, I'd like to keep doing that, or things around more programming.
Hmm. Yeah, I think more cities deserve this kind of cultural attention, especially within the like realm of cinema and film, because I just think movie theaters are being misused across our country right now to like show things that are a lot less useful than what you guys were showing at this screening. So um, I very much agree with you. This is the kind of stuff that enriches much further conversation than any Hollywood film, let's say.
I think also film is a very accessible media, so it's a nice way to entertain people and sort of spark those conversations or spark ideas, and then have conversation or other programming that's more contextual or more informative to uh, kind of open the door and let people in.
Cinema does really allow for that space. I very much agree.
Mhm.
Yeah, I also think one of the most remarkable takeaways from the night for me was audience engagement. I've organized many events, but this one was really special in its audience engagement. We went half an hour overtime, which doesn't happen often, but people were so engaged and they stayed for another half an hour to chat with us and to chat with Asel and their people who were sitting next to. Um, and we also, as a part of the festival, I mean, a part of the screening, we had some feedback forms on the seats. And I was just reviewing some of them. And it's just so beautiful to see people's takeaways and thoughts on the films,
Is that something we can maybe
and
share?
how it resonates. Yes, I think in future podcasts that can be something that we can specifically talk
Fantastic.
about when we're talking about specific
Hmm.
films. I
Great,
think
great.
this would be really interesting to share. But yeah, audience engagement was fantastic.
I
Yeah.
thought it was like a really nice thing to have the audience feedback forms too. So hopefully we can put those to use because I already can think of what some people might have been thinking about the festival as a whole. But in terms of opinions on the films, I'm so curious to hear those. There are some really, really stunning films. And you mentioned that Asel was there as well. And to meet her and to like meet like another filmmaker and to hear that this was her first like fiction film, that blew my mind. I was like, this it was such an established, like a thoroughly thought out idea and like very well executed. So like, I guess as someone who has both put my films into many short films over time, or put as someone who's put many short films into these types of festivals over time, I've had to sit through a lot of bad short films, including my own. And this doesn't like both years of Peaks have like evaded this entirely. Like, there hasn't been like a dud film. These all feel so significant in one way or another, whether it's the filmmaking itself or the messaging behind it. So I think you guys did a really great job of programming both these years so far. And I really do think that this is an experience that more cities deserve.
It's really nice to hear those kind words, especially, yeah, after you attending and visiting and offering your opinion. Yeah, it's really kind to hear that. Thank you.
Well, my pleasure. And I'm excited for the next one because a reminder to all you listeners out there, there will be another screening of these films in St. Catharines, Ontario on Saturday, June 21st. It's going to be at 8:30 p.m., I believe, at the Niagara Artists Centre. We're hoping to show these films off to even more people in the beautiful city of St. Catharines and to engage with more of these filmmakers, hopefully, both in between now and then and at the festival. And as I mentioned, we're hoping to have some exciting guests, including some filmmakers who have participated in Peaks over the first 2 years, and hopefully even more people, even just from like the diaspora and just like attendees even. We're hoping to really have some fruitful discussions with people as we move deeper into the Central Asian Film Podcast here. So if you guys don't have anything further, I think we're going to wrap up for today. But this was a wonderful recap of a really great night, and I know I've been very over-complimentary perhaps, but like I genuinely mean it. It was so well done, and I really enjoyed the whole night, from the films to the experience and to the people I met around the festival. So thank you guys so much.
Thank you, Tay. I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you, Tay.
All right, and you listeners out there, this is episode 3, and stay tuned as we keep doing this. We're really excited to keep this moving forward, so we'll see you on the next episode.